Hey there, Ride the Car Guy here, and today let's finish prepping the VQ so we can pull it out of the Xterra. We have a ton of stuff to do today, but before we get started, I want to mention a few things. First and foremost, if you're following along on this job, be sure to subscribe. Not only are we doing the VK swap, but I've been working on this car for 7 years and had been creating videos all along. If you subscribe, you're going to be notified of all the new videos that come out concerning the Xterra. And secondly, this is not the first video in the series, as I'm sure you can tell. Click in the upper right-hand corner of the screen if you want to check out episode 1.1, where we take the whole front end off of the Xterra. But that's it. Let's jump in. The exterior is exactly how we left it from the last video, where we went and took, of course, the whole front end off, the radiator support and everything attached to it. So now we just have to pull everything else off, everything that connects the engine to the body. It's going to be kind of haphazard. I'm just going to kind of grab things as I can access them, as opposed to going in any sort of organized fashion. Let's start with the easy stuff, which is our air intake. Now, normally you would have a cover here, and you would have to unscrew it and then pop it off, and then access another two 10mm bolts up here. But unfortunately, it doesn't have any of that, so I can't show you. But once those are off, it's simple. Just loosen your clamp over here, loosen the clamp over here, and you can pull it away. Remove this hose. There we go. Oh, that's nice and cracked already. Whatever. Luckily, we don't need it. And then just remove both sides. Should come right off. I'm going to throw this in the passenger seat. I'm very concerned about space. We are just barely getting started on this project, and I already feel like the walls are closing in on me. Next up, let's tackle the fuse box, ECU, and IPDM. And to do that, I'm actually going to pull this up as well. I just want to kind of clear as much space as I can around this. And this you should just be able to pull up on, and it should come out. And in fact, it's actually in a lot better shape than mine. There we go. And this is actually, let me take a look, because I might be able to, I might just remove that. There's two hoses with two hose clamps on the bottom. And this thing has been dry for who knows how long, so I should be able to pull it off. If you don't want to pull it off, but just disconnect it from the mount, that's fine as well. There's one, two, just a big hose and a small hose. There's one. There we go. Whew. All right, that actually opened up quite a bit of space for us. So we're going to take this off. To be frank, I don't even know what it is, and I don't care. Where does it even come from? It comes from the main harness, it looks like. Shove that there. And this should just be like slid on. Yeah, it's just slid on. So if you just pull up, it'll pop off. And then pull our top off. Getting wild in here. There we go. Little relay box. Looks like this one is not gonna play that well. I don't know if there's no, there's not actually a little connector on this. So I'm gonna see if I can just disconnect it. It can't just be one place, right? Looks like there's one bolt holding it in. Seems odd. Let's find out. Let's take this one out here, see what it does for us. Nope, still held down by something. Looks like there's a bracket underneath as well. Looks like it's right here, actually. That one's gonna be a little tough to see, so let me get some light on it. There you go. So removing that should theoretically make this loose. It'll still be tied into this, so we'll have to pull it out, but it's unlikely I'll be able to stuff this in there, right? Yeah, gotta do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. Cool, that's nice and loose. So now, once we pull that out, once we pull this out of what looks like the ECM, this should all flip up. Now for this one, again, I'm gonna yank this out. This is your fills up the what do you call this? Windshield washer tank. Good Lord. I'm just pulling that out really so you can see, but it will make it a little bit easier to access this, and you literally just pull it out. Now this has a little cover on it, little weather type shield. I can't really see where it connects. Maybe I'll break mine so you guys can see it and not break yours. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. It does pop off. Kind of felt like I was going to break it, but it just has a little clamp in the back. Sits right here. And then if you just pull up on it, it'll free it up. Now for these, I would avoid going real hard on them. You don't want to damage any of these connectors. But there's a little button that says lock here. If you just push that in, pull this lever back, you'll see these little pins come up. Keep pushing it all the way back, and then slide it away. There you go. And there's going to be another one that does the same thing on the bottom. Finding it difficult to give you this angle here, but there you go. Push that little button down, pull that lever up, and then the whole thing will come out. Now we can't get to actually pulling the ECU out yet until the IPDM is gone, but we did expose two bolts down here that look like they're for the IPDM. And by flipping it back, we exposed this little guy, where if we disconnect it, we should be able to pull the harness away from the relay block here. There you go. I'm going to pull the two bolts here on the front of this box to see how much space we'll free up. Is that gonna allow us to move it around? Not really. All right. Let's open it up and see what we got. Hey there, Future Ryan here. We are about to jump into a segment where we take out the IPDM. And Duncan actually supplied me an upgraded IPDM, and that's why you're gonna see me taking it out, but you don't actually have to remove it to take the engine out. So if you're not replacing your IPDM, then just go ahead and skip the next chapter and just go to the part where we're removing the front portion of the engine harness. But that's all, on with it. There's a bunch of connections on the front of the IPDM, and luckily Duncan actually gave me one of these, so I just went and looked at it while it was out of the vehicle to kind of figure it out. But it looks like these two tabs here, if you push in and lift up, it should come out. There we go. Awesome. And then now we just have to disconnect the, 6 connectors on the front of it. And it looks like they're all little push tabs. Make that 7 actually, but if they're different, I'll let you know. Just grabbing a smaller screwdriver here. They all seem to be like styled a little differently. So like that one you push here, that one you push here. It's got a big tab. It's kind of bizarre, but it's really not the end of the world. You can kind of see them. There we go. See how they're supposed to come out as you go. Almost there. Looks like one more big one. That's just a normal tab too? It is. All right. They're just all normal push tabs. Awesome. And that little bad boy is out. I don't know why I imagine this being a lot more difficult than this, but it's really not. We need the rest of this harness out. So I'm gonna disconnect the next 3 little connectors here. So that'd be this one, where's that tab? There we go, and this one. Awesome. To get the front cable out, it looks like there's 2 tabs on the side of this that we need to pop up. And I'm gonna imagine this whole piece slides up, but I've never pulled one of these out. So forgive me for all of this sort of, not knowing. Yeah, awesome. There's technically a tab on both sides, but I pulled this away, pulled that away, and then it just came right out. So that frees up that one. All right, with our engine harness disconnected from the ECM and pulled out of the fuse box, that frees that up, and now we can actually take the ECM out. For that, you're gonna see a 10mm here, and I think, yeah, there's another one down below as well. And they made this one have an open end, and that one not have an open end. Should have done the opposite, but whatever. So let's see if I can get my smaller ratchet on here. Looks like I can. Excellent, there we go. So that little guy there was holding it in. Pull it out, and I'm gonna put this in a bag, just kind of protect it, hold it aside. We're not gonna be using this, but I may wanna sell it or something down the road. Since we're over here, let's knock out some more hoses. To the right of your IPDM, you have a couple hoses going into your heater core. You have one here, that's the one we're gonna take off. This goes to the engine. And then if you follow this along the back of the engine, there's one over there we're gonna take off next. Now, a quick word of warning. This little piece here, this plastic piece that goes to this metal hose and then wraps around your engine is a huge piece of shit. If it has not been replaced on your Xterra, plan on replacing it. If you look at this thing wrong, it'll shatter. Just beware of that. It looks like this one's already been replaced and it's not even connected on the back, which is really nice. But if it has not been replaced yet in your vehicle, you're likely going to break it if you mess with this stuff. So for this one, I'm actually gonna go and disconnect it from the engine side, which is a little bit lower. So that way it just has one less hose just hanging off the engine when we go to pull it. So if you follow this one down, you'll see it right there. If you want to disconnect it from this, that's perfectly fine. Just again, be careful because they used the world's cheapest plastic on this stuff. But I'm just using my 90-degree needle nose, grab the clamp and lifting up. There we go. Excellent. So you see I lifted it off. Now this is probably going to be a pain, but it's kind of just the way I like to do it. I like to make things a lot harder for myself than they need to be because this hose is going onto this metal pipe here and it's probably never been taken off. I'm going to break it free with the needle nose and then pull it. There it goes. Excellent. So you see that's free now, and let's go tackle the other side. The other side, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna remove it from the engine side. So here's your airbox, here's your brake master cylinder, and then go down here. It's right there. Same old story. Grabbing the pliers, and then clamp the living hell out of them, pull it up. Grab these to loosen it, then get your mitts down there and pull it off. Awesome. There we go. Since we're right here, let's grab our brake booster and our EVAP line. The booster vacuum line connects at the back of the intake manifold, which is annoying. I'm not going to take it off there. So I'm just going to take it off right here. Makes it a lot easier. Again, just another hose, nothing crazy. This one, you want to hold this little connector though, that goes into the actual booster when you're pulling it out, so you're not putting a bunch of pressure on it. There we go. And tuck it under this. And it was popped into here. So make sure it's popped out of the little guides and set it on top of the engine. Same story on your EVAP. You have a lot of options here. You can disconnect it here at this little valve here, the service port, or down here when it goes to the hard line next to the fuel line. That's where I'm going to disconnect it. It's easier. I want as much crap on the engine when I pull it out, so that way it doesn't get caught on a bunch of stuff as I'm pulling. So nothing special here. Pull the hose clamp again and yank it out. And that one slides off really easily. I'm going to tuck it underneath like one of the coil packs, and there you go. Now right next to your EVAP line, coming up from the hard lines, is your fuel line. Goes into the fuel rail, of course, right here. And we're going to disconnect this by first popping it out of its little guide here, and then I'm going to get a little fuel line disconnector and then just push up on it and it should disconnect. Now another little warning, obviously you're going to be messing with fuel here, so be really careful. Make sure you get some paper towels here to catch any fuel that might come out, and of course wear eye protection. Now normally before you would disconnect this, you would run the engine, right? You would pull the fuse on the fuel pump and then you would run it until it dies, and that makes sure that there's no pressure. But this vehicle hasn't ran in months. I would be shocked if this had any pressure in it or even if any fuel came out. So I'm not terribly concerned, but just know going into it, that's what you should do to take the pressure out. Now, if my memory serves me, it is just it's a little blue one. I think it's this one that disconnects it. It's the only one that has any like real wear marks on it, but that was for the Titan, so I'm assuming it's the same. So let's try it out. Just tucking some paper towel down there and then getting the tool on, throw it in there. Come on, baby. There we go. So hopefully you can see that, the little tool's underneath. Now, I gotta flip it underneath here, get it inside of the disconnect. There we go, just like that. I found it easiest if you push down on the fuel line, pull up on the tool, and then pull the whole assembly out. All right, so let's push this in here. And let me try to make it so you can actually see it. Stand in the engine bay here. There we go. Now the tool's pushed up inside. I'll lift the whole thing. There we go. Awesome. There's a little tiny bit of fuel. There you go. Easy as that. I'll put the link to that little tool, and of course any other tools that I use, down in the description. A lot of people don't just have fuel line disconnects sitting around. Something you use very infrequently, So, one more thing I learned while working on the Titan is if you take this here, bring it down low, get some gravity in there, and it will pull some more gas out of it. Yeah, there you go. A lot more came out. Just grabbing a little bit more paper towel, a little bag, funny enough, some stuff I bought from Nissan, and then just throwing it in there like that. And then I just zip tie it. Just makes it easy. I hate dealing with the smell. There we go. And then the same up there. Also up here, right next to the booster, is the low line for the AC. And that's going to come out of the AC pump and into this line here that goes in and then goes into the firewall, so on and so forth. But we need to disconnect it. Now this one, we don't need to worry about any decompression, right? Because we already took the compressor off and it's the system's open. Just pull the 12mm bolt out and then there you go, pop that out. For me, I'm gonna make sure I just throw this back in. Makes it easier for the future. Onward. So as I'm working, I'm like seeing movement in the engine bay and I think I'm going crazy, but turns out I'm not. Looks like we have a lot of little friends with us. And then it occurred to me that I saw movement over here too. And take a look at that. Huh. Must be something in here that they like. So, got to take care of that pretty quickly because that will get out of hand fast. All right, the bait's set. We're gonna let that do its thing. But in the meantime, we got to get back to work. So, on the right side of the engine, right above the power steering pump, there is a power steering line that we need to disconnect because that goes down to the rack down below. It looks like this is probably, what is this, like a giant banjo bolt probably. So we're gonna pull that off, disconnect that, just kind of probably set it to the side or even zip tie it away. And then also right back here, we have the negative battery cable that, that connects to the block here. So we gotta pop off both of those. That's a 24, well 24 fits, possibly a 23mm here. But there's the guy we wanna take off. And I can throw, there we go, this guy on it. Awesome. I used a breaker bar, probably a bit excessive, but made it easy. All right, with that disconnected, we're gonna, you know what, I'll probably baggy this again, and then I'll just sort of tie it up against this. Looks like we're getting a little coming out. It's mostly empty, but if you need to put your pan underneath, make sure it's under there. That way you're not dripping all over the garage floor. Good enough. All right, with that out of the way, this guy should be nice and easy. Pull it away, and then throw the bolt back in. There's probably another, gosh, there might be 2 more chassis grounds that are gonna go from the engine, or excuse me, from the engine harness to the body. So I think there's one in the wheel well, if it's like the Titan, and then there might be one more. We'll make sure it's done before we pull. For the power steering line, you could also remove it. Here it is here. You could remove it down here as well. That's where it connects down to the rack. Honestly, it's just super dirty down there, and I didn't want to deal with it. Up here is a lot cleaner. But either way, we'll be fine as long as when you're pulling the engine out, you don't get it snagged on anything. Also on this side, you're going to have the mass airflow. So if you just press that little tab down and pull, there's also, well, normally, there's a little clip here that you need to, hit with your needle nose and pull out, but that's broken. So just tuck that up on top of the engine, and you should be good to go. In fact, I'm just going to pop this off as well, only because it just kind of protrudes into the area. So I'll pull that out, and it looks like, well, again, this is the front, looks like the front breather diff. That was going to be right here, and there's a little connector you have to pull off as well. But again, mine's broken. Pull this out. Oh, look what I found. Some little critter made a home in there. So here's what I'm going to do. There we go. That's a problem for future me. All right, I've been avoiding getting underneath the Xterra, but we're getting awfully darn close to having to do it because we're getting awfully close to finishing everything we can reach up here. So next we're going to take off the sort of like the sub harness. There's a large harness that goes from your positive battery cable down, and it hits your alternator, and then it looks like it turns and hits the starter. So we'll go down and disconnect it from those, but up here it's connected with these 2 large connections to your positive battery terminal. So I'm going to remove both of those. Looks like there's one here that looks like a 12, and that one's a little bit bigger, maybe a 14 or something. Small one up here is indeed a 12, and I'm not exactly sure. Might have to grab like a, oh, no, there it goes. Just have to loosen that, pull it off, and then of course just put your nut back on as to not lose it. For this one, it looks like the previous owner maybe put like a weird like spacer nut or something on it. That stud barely goes through this nut here, so I'll probably remove that as part of this, but just loosen the top and this should come out. And it is indeed a 14. So now, when you pull that back, you'll see these 2 large ones here, this connector here, and then you have what looks like probably a 10 millimeter ground, which we'll pull that out right now. There we go. And then of course, just put that bolt back in. Now it looks like the only thing holding onto the body at this point is just this little kind of hold down or tie down here. And I think if we just push on this side here, it should lift up. Yep, there it goes. I mean, technically it looks like it only goes to the engine from here. So theoretically you could kind of pull it up here like this and then probably pull the engine with it on it. Honestly, I think that's what we're going to do. It is a hot mess down there. It is so freaking filthy. There's so much oil and power steering fluid that I want to avoid being down there as much as possible. We might as well just leave it. And once it's out, it'll be super easy to take out, because everything will just be exposed. So I think what I'll do is I'll just grab a big ass zip tie and throw it up here, maybe on this bracket, and that way we don't have to deal with it. One word of caution though is that you have to maintain this. You have to integrate this into your Titan engine harness, so you can't damage it. So we'll just be extra careful when pulling the engine as to not mess it up. With that out of the way, let's take this. This is the main engine harness. On this one, there's the same sort of clamp that was holding it down over here. So I'm going to lift that up, peel it away, and do the same thing. Awesome. Excellent. There we go. Throw it up there. This annoying little box can come back over here, and now we're just going to create space up here as to not obstruct anything. Now it looks like I can't avoid going underneath the Xterra any longer. We have to take out the O2 sensors and the shifter linkage from the transmission and the catalytic converters. So let's do it. All right, for that, I just went in and jacked it up on the right side and threw a jack stand in. So pretty standard stuff, but underneath, we're gonna go and take off the cats on driver and passenger side, of course. That's gonna, of course, make it so not only is the exhaust disconnected, but also it's not gonna obstruct, hit the frame, or hit cross members or anything when you try to pull it out. So over here we have, okay, I forgot. So I forgot, Duncan asked if he could take the cats out of this before I went and picked it up. So we don't have cats. So let me think for a second. Well, the shifter linkage is there, so that's good. We can talk about removing that. But it just occurred to me that I've already done this job and I've already shown you how to do it. So I think what I'm gonna do, just to make this a cohesive video and make it, you know, beginning to end, I'm just gonna put in the footage from when I was removing it for dropping the transmission in my other Xterra. That way it's still just part of this video. You don't have to go, you know, watch that and come back or anything crazy like that. So let's just do that. And then when we're done with that part, then we'll take off the shifter linkage, and that'll probably be the end of this video. We're gonna take off both of our inner wheel well protectors, and then take off our heat shields on our exhaust. And there are 3 10mm bolts. You see one here, one over here, and then there's one actually right below, kind of near the center of that guard. One issue here is my bolts are incredibly rusty, so I broke them loose and they started backing out nice and easily until they got to a certain point, and they got very, very difficult. So what I really want to avoid is freaking snapping these things off and then not having a heat shield, or only having 2 bolts and having it rattle. So I'm just gonna take a little break. I went ahead and sprayed some PB Blaster in the threads of each one of these. I'm gonna let them sit for a little bit and see if I can get them to back out without breaking. Okay, I think I'm lucking out here. It's been a couple minutes, I let them sit. Yes, okay, awesome. So yes, these are really rusty and really small, so definitely use caution, but remove all 3 on both sides, and then we'll start attacking these catalytic converters. So now that that's free, you have to just kind of push it and move it around inside of the engine bay to gain access to those upper flange bolts that hold in the catalytic converters. The one on the top I was able to access from up above. The one on the bottom, of course, I was able to get to on the bottom. The one on the right side was the hardest one to get to. And in here, I had to literally take a standard wrench and bend back the heat shield, get the wrench on there, and then since I already hurt my finger once today, I took some string, some really strong string, and I sat outside of the wheel well and pulled. Once that broke loose, I'm gonna be able to get all of those nuts off. And so once we're done doing that, we just go to the other side here at the bottom and take those 2 bolts out. Those should be easy to access without an issue. And then pull that whole assembly out. Now on the left hand or the driver's side, it should be a lot easier. So if we just push this forward, this is our heat shield, get that out of the way and unplug our O2 sensor. Just pull the 3 bolts off of that flange there for the catalytic converter. And then again, we're gonna take the other side off a little bit further down the back of the Xterra and pull both of these out. Excellent, so I have the 3 bolts on the upper end of the each catalytic converter taken off. I tried to take video for you guys. I'm sorry that I couldn't. I couldn't get anywhere where you'd actually see what I was doing, so the footage was kind of unusable, but I took a few photos just to kind of show you how I had some of the wrenches in there, and so I could actually take them out. But I will tell you, the ratcheting wrenches that I picked up recently were instrumental in this. So I'm sure you could do it without it. You just got to get really creative, or take it off the nut 15 times to back it out. But these were definitely a huge help. But now that we have this, I also took the O2 sensor dongle, if you will, and disconnected that. That one's real simple. Again, you just take the white sort of clip, and then you flip it up, and then the connection comes out. So now let's get back underneath and take out a couple bolts on the exhaust near the center, and then try to pull these assemblies out. So we are back underneath the vehicle, and it's nice. I missed it down here. What we're gonna do is I'm going back a little bit on the exhaust system, so this is where it turns and meets the passenger side. But we're on the driver's side for now, and what we're gonna do is just remove the bolts right here, and hopefully there's enough wiggle room in this once both are loosened that I can kind of slide this forward enough that these studs will kind of come off, and we can remove that. So the manual technically says to remove the front pipes, which is this going up. So that's all right. Let's remove them, and let's see what happens. All right, before we finish taking this other one out, one quick reminder, there is an oxygen sensor, so a downstream oxygen sensor that you'll need to disconnect there as well. You'll notice it's connected to the transmission anyways, so that needs to be removed anyways, but just go ahead and do it now before we pull this thing out. Okay, so we are loose. See if we can pull this out enough. All right, well, this is a gasket surface, so I don't really want to go crazy on it. I was thinking about just putting a little wedge in here. Really shouldn't damage that surface too much. Ah, man. Ah. Come on. All right, it. I'm gonna wedge it apart. Now that it's apart on the bottom, as you can see, the catalytic converter side is pretty darn loose. So I'm convinced that if I get these to pop off, then the whole thing should kind of fall down. Be very careful. See your O2 sensor and how close it is to this heat shield. We really should be removing this, but I'm just gonna see what happens. You know, if you feel more comfortable pulling it out first, that's fine. But I'm sure that if these come out and the whole thing drops, you're gonna get some more room for that O2 sensor. All right, this is not working. We need a plan B here. So I think my problem was that I think I need to remove this as well, so this will move more freely, the kind of collector pipes and the exhaust. From this point back, the exhaust is on hangers, and so the hangers have a lot of room. So if you'll notice, if you can see this right here, the steel hanger is sitting inside. So there's a lot of space right here. There's a solid inch that hopefully I should be able to push this and it will flex a little bit, allowing me to free up the space up here. Even once it's loose, we still have to contend with the cross member here. Once the cross member gets taken out, that's when the exhaust, I think, will be able to actually fully be removed. All right, let's see if we can get some more movement here now. There we go. Perfect. Yes, that's the ticket. God, I hate working on exhaust. So the way I got it off here is I slid, once both were disconnected, so you see both are disconnected there, I was able to slide the rear assembly far enough back that everything kind of loosened up. So you'll see this hanger's pushed really far back. And so once this was loosened, it came out, and the front catalytic converter, at least on the right side, has popped out. I just heard it. Yes, sure enough, as you can see there, it has come out, and it should be nice and loose in here. Yes, awesome. So at this point, we still need to remove the cross member on the bottom. So just make sure that isn't resting on the O2 sensor, and then make sure the other side is popped out and loose as well. And then we can go continue underneath. All right, I hope that was a fun trip down memory lane. To be totally honest with you, I'm kind of glad that these are already out, because working with exhaust is not exactly my favorite part of this job. If I'm being totally honest, I utterly despise it. But one thing I don't despise is working on shifter linkages, so let's get that taken care of. Now the shifter linkage is on the right side. You'll see it here, it has a little bar, and then it has a little nut on a stud, and then it rides up, and then of course goes up to like the firewall and goes into the vehicle. We have to pop the clip off up front, which is sort of like a brake line clip, and then pull that nut off the rear. I believe the nut in the rear is a 12, which, I can't be lazy with my power tools. I'm gonna go get an actual wrench. Looks like it is in fact 12. Let me see if I can bust my knuckles on this. We wanna go this way? Yeah. There it goes. And that just slides out. Put that nut right back on there. Not about to deal with losing that. And then up front we have this big clip here. This should just pull down, I hope. Or is it off to the side? Let me take a look. Huh. Yeah, there we go. Just pull down, then that just pushes back and out of the side. Very nice. Not bad at all. One thing I want to do is just take a peek up here, because sometimes Nissan likes to throw like little connectors on the back of the engine, or like going up the transmission to connect to things. It doesn't look like there is. It looks like it goes straight to the firewall. So that's fantastic. We will call that done, and if we have an issue pulling it out, you'll certainly know about it. Well, hey guys, I apologize for the sort of less than conventional video today, having to go back in history to show you that cat removal, but unfortunately I can't show you what I don't have, right? We are, however, in a very good place. We really just have to remove the transmission cross member, the engine mounts, and then what else? The propeller shaft, right? So Just getting those things off, we should be able to pull. But that's gonna be the next episode. Make sure you are subscribed to follow along with this project. Check the description down below for the info on Nissan Parts Puller, the company who, of course, supplied me this Xterra and many other things you're gonna see later in the series. And that's it. Have a good day.